Thank you to all the amazing listeners out there. On behalf of the Reef Podcast, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for future mentions and new episodes. Have a great day.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Reef Podcast. I'm your host, Luis, here joined by Nightmare and our amazing guest here, Mr. John Swasey. Welcome in, sir.
Hey, guys. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. I know it's a little late where you at, but I'm glad that we were able to have you here, my friend.
Yeah, not a problem. It's actually, I think, later where you all are. I'm Houston time, so I'm Central, so it's only a little after 8. Mm-hmm. But you got me on a good moment. I know we've been trying to get this scheduled for a while, so I'm glad we can make it work.
I gotcha. Well, I'm glad that we were able to, I know you said you were traveling next Sunday and everything like that, and we tried to make it, the more comfortable it is for you guys as a guest, the better it is, because we always try to go with whatever time frame, whatever, it's good with you. Hey, that's all that matters,
Well,
Absolutely.
I've got my libations, so I'm feeling very comfortable.
Well, you're like my co-host here. My co-host has a little drink as well over here.
All right, cheers.
All right, so a lot of people know who you are, but for those of you that don't know who you are, can you do a little introduction about yourself, like a little bio?
Sure. I'm John Swasey. I'm a voice actor. I've been a professional actor for about 37 years and doing anime for about 27 years. I live in Houston, Texas. I'm based out of here. I work as a full-time director at Sentai Filmworks, which is part of the AMC Networks family. And I work for primarily Sentai Filmworks and Crunchyroll, formerly Funimation, up in Dallas. Some of the roles you know me for are Crocodile from One Piece, All for One from My Hero Academia, Lord Death from Soul Eater, Undertaker from Black Butler, Midoriya from Dragon Ball Z, Hohenheim from Full Metal Alchemist, Gendo from Evangelion, and about 400 others. So those are the biggies.
So basically, you have a big Christmas list of different names out there. But yeah, we're big fans of you.
I've got a fair amount under my belt. Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome. And I don't know if you remember, but we actually met at SciFiCon.
Oh yeah, of course, SciFiCon, yeah.
Lake Charles, Louisiana.
Almost the Bill Bills.
How was your experience there, though? You had fun?
Oh yeah, you bet, man. I've done it a couple of years, and it's always a good time. It's a real easy drive for me. It's only about 2 hours away, so I just right down I-10 and cross over the border, and boom, you're there. So yeah, it's always a fun show to do.
So I see you have a little colorful shirt over here. Is that your brand, or is a promotion thing right here?
No, it's a Grateful Dead shirt.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm a big Deadhead, so I love the Grateful Dead and jam bands, but Allman Brothers and Grateful Dead are my two favorite bands.
So just so you know, over here, it's not just mostly interview, but it's also promoting what you have coming up, projects. Actually, this is basically your spotlight, so you can promote whatever you have coming up.
Okay. Well, I will not be performing with the Grateful Dead, so there's nothing to promote there. But yeah, we can talk about some of that stuff for sure.
Awesome. So what actually made you want to get into voice acting from the beginning? What made you think hey, this is a role I want to take? I know you probably acted, right? Correct? If I'm not mistaken.
I thought to myself 37 years ago, I want to do the Reef Podcast one day. What's the best way to do that?
Well, I don't know if you are you familiar with two of these guys, Josh Martin and Chris Rager.
Oh, what pieces of shit they are. Yeah. No, they're great guys. I love those two guys, man. They're super duper. And to really answer your question, I decided I wanted to be an actor when I was in New York at the age of 15 or 16 years old. Mm-hmm. Saw a Broadway show and was bitten by the bug, as they say. I've never been to Broadway, never performed on Broadway, can't sing or dance worth a shit. But I did love the energy that I felt in that performance. I saw Joseph in the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat with the original cast. And it was just something that was amazing to me. And I came home and announced to my parents I'm going to be an actor. And they were like, now, maybe a lawyer, something like that might be better for you. And I was like, no, that's not going to do it. And so I pursued it, and I've never looked back. I've had, certainly my ups and downs. And I started out doing theater, improvisation, sketch comedy, that kind of thing, which is truly my love, is sketch comedy and improv. And then I started doing film and television and commercials. And then about 1995, I really kind of put my eggs in the voiceover basket because people kept going, you got a great voice, man. You should do commercials and stuff like that. So I started doing commercials and industrial narrations and things like that about 7 or 8 years into my career. And it really took off. I mean, I was like, oh my gosh, this is where it's at for me. I can use my voice and it's people respond to it. So it was very successful. And then in 1997, in the midst of all this, I'm doing very well, making a great living, knock on wood. And by the grace of God, I was able to support. I got married in 96 and was, able to support my wife. And we just were living large, and it was great. And then in 1997, somebody said, you ought to do anime. And I was like, what's anime? And they said, well, it's Japanese animation. I said, well, I don't speak Japanese. So they said, well, that's okay. We dub it into English. So there happened to be a studio here in Houston, Texas called ADV Films. And I started working for them. And then a few years later, I started working for a company up in Dallas called Funimation. And then I started directing for ADV, and just kind of kept working. And it wasn't a meteoric rise. It was a very slow, because really from 97 to, for the first 15 years even, it was work, but nobody really cared about anime. There were fans, certainly, but it was a very niche fan base. It was very, that's up until probably 2017, I would say, for the first 97, 107, so for the first 15 years of doing it, people that watched anime were the ones that got beat up and picked on and bullied. If you watched it, you were a nerd, you were a geek, you were whatever.
I remember those.
Oh, stand by 1 second. Don't go away. I got an emergency. Don't go away. I'll be right back.
Yes, sir.
Sarah.
This.
Oh, come on, real quick. Keep it right. Please. Okay, I'm back.
Welcome back.
Anyway, so I just started doing it, and again, for me, nobody. When I say for me, people like Lucy Christian, Monica Rial, Greg Ayers, the late Chris Ayers, it was an acting gig for us. It wasn't something like, oh my gosh, I'm doing anime. It was just another acting gig. We didn't really think much about it. It was like, oh, well, it's a chance to do something fun, make cartoons, and get to use my voice and get to do all this stuff. But it wasn't anything like, we weren't like, well, whatever, I don't know. And it wasn't until about 2018 that the shift began. And suddenly it was becoming more popular. And in 2019, it was getting really popular. And then, of course, 2020 hit with the pandemic. And after the pandemic, it was just exploded in popularity.
That's amazing.
And, whereas before, people would go, what do you do? And I go, anime. And they go, isn't that Japanese porn? I was like, no. It can be, but so, anything could be, it's like, that's not that doesn't encapsulate the whole thing. But now it's quite the opposite. Now, I get people that are like, I could be at the grocery store, I've been at the airport, I've been at, whatever, and they find out what I do, and they're just like, really, what have you done? And I tell them, they're like, no way. Flip out and they freak out and they just, can I get your picture? And blah, blah, blah. It's a completely, it's like, the anime voice actors now are these like celebrities, and people love it. So I'm very blessed. And, what's really changed, another aspect that has changed is the convention scene, like SciFiCon, where, back when I started doing anime, there might be 1 or 2 conventions a month. Now there's 6 and 7 a week, if not more, all over the world.
Right. So
you've gone from about 20 conventions a year, maybe, to 400.
Yeah.
It's insane. And they're everything from the size of SciFiCon, which is, a medium-sized show, 4,000 or 5,000 people, which is a decent show, all the way up to New York Comic Con. And you got, 1 million, 2 million people showing up. So it's really been, it's been a thrill, and it's been, I love it. And it's been a ride. And right now I don't see any end in future, especially with things like One Piece. Now they're doing the live action. So it's making everything more popular. One feeds the other. And so it's really, really something to be a part of.
Just so you know, me and my actual co-owner of my Discord that we have here, like, it's not him, this is my co-host, but he's actually part of the admin as well. Me and him are actually thinking about doing an abridged series of My Hero Academia, like a funny version of that. And I told him, like, hey, I can actually, like, try to get you something signed from John Swasey. And he's like, where, how? I was like, dude, SciFiCon, I'll go over there and get you something. And I was the one that got the metal plate signed by you for my friend. Yeah. So he was like,
nice. Yeah, very cool.
Yeah. So he was actually very happy to have that, and
wonderful. Glad. It's I love doing the conventions. I love meeting fans, and I love hearing their stories and visiting and talking. And it's for me, it's not just about signing autographs and next. It's like, I like to hear the stories about people. And, one of the things about anime for sure is that it's had a very profound and positive effect on a great number of people.
100%.
And, the traditionally the anime fan is somewhat marginalized. They're on the outer peripheral, they're maybe on the spectrum, or part of the LGBT community, or something that kind of puts them on the perimeter, for whatever reason. And I'm not trying to say there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying in society, we have a way of if you're not normal, you stand over there. And what's been great about anime is that it's been there as a support for people, but it's now become so mainstream. It's like the people that were over there going, you stand over there, they're like going, no, come on, let's all be together, So I think it's been a great community engager for everybody. In fact, one of the things I like to say is, the world could learn how to get along just by going to an anime convention.
I agree.
Because people don't bully. They're not there to hassle. They're there to lift each other up and
have fun.
Let's have a good time. And you be you. Just do you. That's all you got to worry about. And so I really dig that.
I do gotta say, you mentioned how, your parents gave you that weird eyebrow look whenever you said, you wanted to do voice acting and everything. And now, basically, that you're actually successful here. I bet, I'm a big Christian. So, they're looking up to you and saying, hey, we're proud of our son for, what he's done,
Well, thank you. I, too, am a Christian, and I believe my parents they both passed on, but I believe they're up in heaven looking down. And, it's weird. I mean, there's certainly times my dad died in 2000, so he never really got to see the success, but my mom did a little bit more. She died in 2013, so she did not get to see the success that I'm enjoying today. But they both, as much as they raised their eyebrows, you said, which is very funny. That's very apropos. But they were, I should mention, they were very, very supportive of my career. And they were like, basically, once they realized that I said, I'm going to be an actor, they just said, well, just go be the best actor you can be. And, they were very supportive. Little side note, but my dad wanted to be a librarian. And when he met my mom, they got married and got pregnant with me pretty quick. And so he kind of gave up his dream because he had to go get a job and go to work and support his new family. And while he, he was a salesman and did well, but I always thought that he kind of lived a little vicariously through me, because he was like, well, you're going to be an actor. Go follow your dream. That's, I didn't get to do mine. I want you to do yours. And that's something that's always kind of stuck with me. And I'm a big believer, when as you get older, you start to realize, this world we live in, especially this country, we have a lot of trappings and there's a lot of things that we're supposed to do. And that's bullshit. Plain and simple. You're put on this earth, and you need to enjoy yourself and have a good time. And I'm not saying go out and rape and pillage if that makes you feel good, but I'm just saying if there's something you want to do, go do it. Exactly. Why wouldn't you? At the end of the day, there's nobody going, well, you didn't sell enough widgets, so you just don't get to go to heaven, or it's like no. You enjoy yourself. You enjoy what you do. Follow your passions. Whatever.
I always tell all my fellow content creators, because I do live streaming as a hobby. I mean, I work for Microsoft, but I mean that's my hobby that I do. I do live streaming, and I always tell them hey, don't let nobody judge you for what games you play. Do it because you enjoy it, have fun. And in time, that's actually going to grow, and you're actually going to have, enjoy it. Don't go something because, somebody tells you, oh, you should go do this because it makes you a lot of money. No, do it because you enjoy it, and then it'll actually generate an income for you, and then you'll be living, happy because you're enjoying what you're doing.
Exactly. That's well said. Well said.
All right. So we got 2 questions here from the community that Nightmare is actually going to read out to you real quick. So.
Okay.
Yes. The first question, what is your way of relating to the characters you portray?
Well, when I'm working on a character, especially at the very beginning, I listen to what the Japanese actor did or had done, and not that I try to imitate that, but I do want to capture the essence of that. But then, I look at the character, I see what they look like physically, and I try to, when I'm in the booth, I usually will copy their mannerisms and their physicalities and stuff like that to help me get into it. But I've also kind of gotten to the point in my career where I play a lot of dads and a lot of villains, and sometimes they're the same guy. But so I've kind of been typecast a little bit, which is fine. I don't mind. It's better than being not cast, as they say. But I just try to, in put myself in their place and stuff like that. I mean, one of the things that we're doing that is different than traditional animation. And by that, I mean, pre-light. Oh, pardon me. Whew.
Hey, no worries.
We're dubbing it into English. So a lot of the work, a lot of the heavy lifting for what the character should be like has already been done by the Japanese actor. We just have to kind of go in and capture that essence and put it into English. For instance, if the if the character, like All for One, you know, if if he's down here like this, I'm not going to go, I'm all for one. So it's not like we get to really bring our own thing. I mean, we do bring our own thing, but we have to be true to what the Japanese has already created, So, yeah.
All right.
Good question.
Thank you. All right. And then we got another one too, Nightmare. We got 2, right? Coming up?
Yes. 2 more. The next question is, what are your most interesting gaming roles, in your opinion?
The most interesting gaming role for me is Salvador from Borderlands 2. I've done Dodoria. I've done from Dragon Ball. I've done Farmer with a Shotgun from Dragon Ball. All for One from My Hero. And anything that's any anime that has a game attached, a video game attached, I've done those characters, and that's fine. There's nothing like. But Salvador was he was from scratch, and so he was one of my favorites. He's also one of the hardest voices I've ever had to do, as far as not performing it. Like, oh my gosh, where did you have to go for that? But it was just the hardest on my vocal cords, because he's this kind of Russian Hispanic-y, but everything he does is like this, and it's all big and huge. And so it would really rag my voice out for sure. So, but he's one of my favorites. I would, I hope and pray every day that I wish Gearbox would just go, hey, we're going to do a spin-off game of nothing but Salvador,
Wow. That would be pretty awesome. And then, and now didn't they just came out with a movie for Borderlands or something? Like, I was like, what the heck, man? That's crazy.
Yes.
They did it. It was Borderlands. It's Salvador's not even in it, but they came out with a movie of Borderlands, but the original Borderlands. I'm in Borderlands 2 and 3.
Now, I know, like you mentioned, like, that Chris Rager and Josh Martin. Were you ever on the same booth recording with Rager? Because I know he voiced the Borderlands character too.
Yeah, so the way that we do stuff, though, is we just do one actor at a time. So I'm never in the booth when they are, and they're never in the booth when I am. I mean, we all just do one actor at a time, especially the video. I mean, excuse me, in the anime, because we're dubbing it. So it would be really, really difficult and problematic to try to record a bunch of actors at the same time, and then the engineers got to match everything up and all that. It's hard. If you had more than one, it would be really difficult. So, I've never been in the booth. Really, the only time we ever see each other, funny enough, is at conventions.
Gotcha. But I mean, out of all the conventions out there, like between San Diego Comic-Con, New York Comic-Con, and then of course, down the south, which one do you think you actually enjoyed the most out of the 3?
Well, I've never done San Diego. New York was fun. It was overwhelmingly huge. I couldn't believe how big it was. I got to be honest with you. I kind of like doing the smaller shows like Sci-Fi-Con. I enjoy those for a number of reasons. But I'm not generally somebody who has a line of people down the block. I mean, I have lines of people, but they kind of come and go, or it's just, it may not even be a line. It's like I've got 10 people in my line, and then by the time the 10th person comes up, there's 3 more people, and then there's 2 people, and then 5 more people, and then it's not this like Chris Sabat, that has this just marathon line where he's going to be there doing nothing but signing for the next 10 hours. And like I said, I really enjoy when you can spend a little time with people and talk to them. Some people come up, they don't even want an autograph. They just want to come up and say hello. And that's fine. I mean, they're just as valued and just as valuable as anybody else, because they have an opinion, and just because they don't have, money to get an autograph, there's no reason to shoo them away. They're a fan just like everybody else, and I learned a long time ago, never, ever, ever, ever steal anyone's joy. You know, if their dream was to come up and meet you, then by golly, you need to be there for them and meet them and say hello. Mm-hmm. You know, you don't have to spend 20 minutes with them, but I mean, at least acknowledge them. I mean, they, may have driven a long distance, or, who knows what their circumstance is. So I think it's just very, very important to give back and to be a part of that. So the smaller conventions generally afford you that flexibility, as opposed to the really big ones that are like kind of just churn and burn and that kind of.
So basically what you're saying is like the big,
they're all fun. I've got not a podcast. I've got a panel that I do called Convention Con Stories from Hell. Mm-hmm. And it's not about conventions. It's about the weird shit that's happened to me at conventions. So it's not, I've never been to a convention that I was like, oh my God, this was the worst show ever. Mm-hmm. Because there's so many different ways to gauge it. I mean, was it the best show monetarily? Was it the best show? Did I get to hang out with some friends I haven't hung out with in a long time? Was it a good experience? There's so many different metrics that, I've never had a bad show, knock on wood. Mm-hmm. I did have a show. This is actually the only time this has ever happened to me in 8-9 years of doing these shows. No, I shouldn't say that. COVID, I literally left on an airplane, and as the wheels left the ground, mm-hmm. I got a text from my agent saying the convention just got canceled.
Wow.
So I fly to the city and then just turn around and fly back.
Damn.
But I was supposed to be at a convention today in Augusta, Georgia. And I got to the airport last night in Houston, and this nasty weather we've been having, my flight ended up getting canceled, and there was no way I could get to Augusta today. So, and it was a show, so I had to cancel it, which sucked.
Well, at least you have us here, to conversate with you for a few minutes.
Right. At least we do this. So it all worked out, and it all worked out. I mean, got to spend time with my son today, and I took him back to college, and it was a good day. So all things worked.
Now here's a silly question. I mean, I know you probably heard this before in an interview. Has anyone told your son hey, you're the son of all for one or something like that? Have they ever asked him any questions like that?
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
My kids, in college. My son is in college, and my daughter's in high school, and I'm a pretty big deal to their friends. Not all of them, but some of them. So.
That's always awesome, though. To look to have your kids actually look up to you and be like, hey, yeah, he's my dad.
Oh no, my kids don't look up to me. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying they're friends.
I got you.
No.
So we have one more question from Flame Wheel, right, Nightmare?
Yes. Sure. Based on your portfolio, has there ever been a character where you thought, gee, I could do that way better now, and if given the opportunity, would you want to improve it?
Every single one of them.
Yeah.
That's why I don't watch my work. I'm hypercritical of myself, and I'm always like, oh my God, that was awful. Why did you do it that way? Why did that's terrible. There's so many different ways to deliver lines and stuff like that, and you have to really work with the director and hope that they're guiding you, trust, I shouldn't say not hope, but trust that they're guiding you down the right path as far as your delivery and stuff like that. A lot of times, I love line reading from the director, because the director is going to be far more intimate and knowing of the show than the actor is. Because when we go in, we're jumping all over the place. We're going in linear fashion, but we might, you have 5 lines up here, and then you go 5 minutes into the show, you got another line, and then 2 more minutes, you got 4 more lines. And then, so, you a lot of times we don't know the context, or we don't know what's going on, what happened before. It's not like we get the scripts ahead of time. I mean, we have to go in as basically cold reading. So, it's hopefully you deliver a line that is the best you could do. But certainly when the director goes, hey, listen, and I do this as a director too. Listen, on that line reading, there's nothing wrong with it, and we all understand that. We don't have to say it, but it's like, I need you to emphasize this word, not that word. You know what I mean? They went that way, not they went that way. Mm-hmm. There's different ways to say it, but you have to say it the right way that it fits with the other lines. It's like putting together a puzzle. It's and sometimes as a director, I'll start. I get knee deep into a show and I realized that, that one actor, I didn't have him deliver the line the right way. I'm going to have him come back in because it doesn't make sense the way that the rest of the actors around them have delivered their lines. So, that happens because ultimately what we want to put out is an exceptional product. That's the end goal. Mm-hmm. And so, if we have to re-record or redo lines, we will. But as far as me, I just hope and that and trust that whatever I've done is good. I mean, I without sounding too boastful, I would think it's all right. Everyone seems to like it, so I guess it's okay. But I'm very hypercritical of myself. So.
Well, you always want to aim for perfection, like when it comes to like doing like even when you do content, like when you do YouTube videos or something like that, you want to make sure it's actually the way you want it to be. And I completely 100% agree with you with that.
You don't want to hear these words. Mm-hmm. Well, that's as good as that is going to get. That doesn't cut the mustard. That doesn't fly with us.
So Nightmare, any questions that you have for her?
I do have one question. With the extensive list of everything you've done, voice acting, live action, what would you say is the most difficult role you have ever played?
Well, again, that's kind of that's a little tricky because when you say difficult, like again, Salvador wasn't difficult to do the voice; it was very difficult to sustain the voice. So I would go in and record for a few hours, and then my voice would just be shred. It would be bloody and vocal cords flopping all over the place. I mean, it was just, I was like, that was very hard. But I did one role one time, Captain Global for Macross, which was, man. Macross is an old show and it was part of the Robotech series. And, but this was not Robotech, this was Macross by itself. Mm-hmm. And I played Captain Global, and he was Italian, and the director would direct me, and he goes, he has a slight Italian accent.
Oh wow!
we would record, and the director would go, too much Italian, not enough Italian.
Oh my god!
Like, so it was tough, but again, the goal is to get it right. And as frustrating as it can be, especially somebody like me or, any number of actors that have been doing this for almost 3 decades, you want to go in and do the best job you can, but we've been doing this so long, it's kind of like second nature to a lot of us. I mean, if I hear a voice, I'm like, okay, well, you called me in because you're looking for something like this. Oh, yeah, that's perfect. Okay, well, I've done this a gazillion times. I know what to do. So, there's really been nothing that's been so difficult that I couldn't do it. Now, I will say that when there are plenty of times I've auditioned for something that I didn't get it. I wasn't the right voice. I wasn't the right guy. You just have to trust that the director knew what they were doing. I will tell you, there was one show I was doing called Tanagawa, and I think it's Tanagawa. I think that's the name of it. Anyway, I auditioned for the role of the narrator. And my friend, Kyle Jones, was directing it. And he said, John, I want you to audition for the narrator. I think you're perfect for it. And, you know, sometimes when you get told things like that, you kind of think, well, this is kind of a gimme. I got this in the bag. I'm going to nail it. And I did it, and I didn't get it.
Oh, wow.
And I ended up doing some other stuff. He cast me in some other stuff. But David Wald got the role of the narrator. And when I heard David Wald's performance, I was like, of course he got the role of the narrator. It's perfect. How would you even consider me when you had that? I mean, it was so beautiful. And, you know, David Wald's a very, very gifted actor. And, but, you know, so there are roles, there are roles that are hard, and usually some of those we don't get, you know, to be fun. You know, hopefully, again, you know, the director's going to cast you in something that he or she knows is somewhat in your wheelhouse, or certainly directable in your wheelhouse. So, yeah.
I got you.
That's
all right.
Pretty much it.
So we have 3 last questions for the day, for the interview, and then we should be done.
Okay, sure.
All right. So what's the next question from Flame Wheel, Nightmare?
The next question from Flame Wheel. When you're directing people in a scene, how best do you go about it? If you can use examples of whatever you've done personally.
Well, a lot of the first step is casting. You want to cast the right person in the role. And if you've done that, I can tell you that 90% of your job is done. Now, that is very true with seasoned actors. If you get somebody new, it's a different ballgame, because you really don't know what they can do, and you have to really push them and kind of crack the whip and, you know, make them, you know, the main thing about any voiceover, whether you're doing anime or you're doing commercials or industrial narration, safety videos, whatever, the most important thing about a voiceover is that it sound authentic and real and believable. Like it comes from your heart. If you're having somebody just read lines, it's not gonna fly. So that's why I tell people, if you're interested in this kind of career, the most important thing you can do first is learn the craft of acting. Don't worry about voice acting. Learn the craft of acting. If you can act on a stage, you can do voiceover. Historically, a lot of the best voice actors I've ever worked with started on the stage. But with regards to using, you know, bringing somebody in and I'm directing them, it's just important that they be real, and to get them to be as believable as possible. A lot of times you hear yourself, you got your headphones on, and you sit there and you're like going, okay, so in this scene you're yelling at that other person, and they'll go, "Hey, Nightmare!" Okay, that's not yelling. "Hey, Nightmare!" That's yelling. You have to be real.
Right.
You know, and getting people to do that, you know, if you feel foolish, like you look like an idiot in the booth, you're probably doing it correctly. If you think, oh, I look cool while I'm doing this, you're not doing it right. The axiom of this business.
That's awesome. So
it's getting people to let go of their safety net and let go of their, you know, their little, there's a phrase for it that actors do. It's kind of like, this is my shtick that I do. So I, you know, it's like, look concerned. Okay, no, that's not looking concerned. That's looking stupid. You know, so be real. And that's getting actors to do that. That's probably the hardest thing in the world. And the hardest part of my job is to do that. That being said, when I'm working with a Monica Rial or a Lucy Christian or any number of gazillions of actors that I work with, it's not a problem because they know what they're doing, and I can just go in and let them do what they do, and just sit back, and then all I got to do is tweak it here and there, and that's what's fun. There have been times when I have brought an actor in, and I get them, and I hear their read, and I just think to myself, oh God, what have I done? This is a huge mistake. But it's my job to rectify that and make it right. So, and acting too is like a light bulb thing, it's like, you think you're doing it right, and maybe you're not, but once you do it right, you kind of feel that, and a light bulb goes off. You're like, oh, I see what you're talking about. Okay. And then it's kind of like the floodgates open, and now they're off to the races. But sometimes getting that actor there can be a bit of a challenge.
Gotcha. Well, that's actually really good to know, because we have a lot of people that actually want to actually practice, their voice acting and everything on the viewer
Well, and that's
here.
again, listen, Louis, that's what I'm saying. Forget practicing voice acting. Go find a theater, a community theater. Go take some acting classes. Sign up for. They can be film, it can be stage, it can be whatever. Take acting classes, because you'll also immerse yourself in that world, and you'll meet people, and you'll make connections and that kind of thing. If you're just going to I'm going to be a voice actor, so I'm going to go buy a microphone and buy a computer and soundproof my room and make a little sound booth and blah, 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 and just do stuff on my own. It's like, dude, you need guidance. You need help. It's like learning to play golf, and you're going to start hitting the ball, and, you got nobody to tell you that's not the way you swing the club. That's not the way. And it takes practice. It's not something you go learn. And I had a guy one time in New York tell me, I was at a panel, and he goes, I have a question. I go, what's your question? He goes, I took a 6-week voice acting class. What's my next step? And I said, take it again. He's like, well, I already took it. I said, I know, take it again. And then after you're done with that, take it again. And then take another one, and then another one, and another one. And then when you're done with those, take them again. It's not rocket science. It's not brain surgery, but it is a skill. And you don't learn how to play the guitar or speak a foreign language or, do anything taking a 6-week class. It takes time. You might get some of the fundamentals. You might get some of the basics, some of the mechanics, but to really perfect them takes time and practice. And that's unfortunately, what I see a lot of people today don't seem to want to do. What they see is somebody at a convention, and they go, "Oh, I want to be a big voice actor like them." And so I can sit at a table and sign autographs and meet people. And it's like, well, it took me 27 years to get there. It took these actors 15 years. It took, it's not something that happens overnight. So it's very important that you really learn the craft and the skill of acting, and see where it takes you.
Yeah, I always tell myself, practice makes perfect.
Indeed. There's a reason to say that.
You always even when you reach the top, you still have more to go. Don't.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. If you're not working, you should be taking classes anyway. I don't care what level you're at. It's something to keep your instrument lubricated and moving and up to speed. Because if you don't, it becomes sedentary. It's like I learned how to be a runner, but I don't have any races, so I'm just going to sit around on my couch. It's like, no, you're not. You've got to go run every day. So when that opportunity comes up, you're ready to go.
And take it.
And awesome. If you sit there and just go, well, I took all these acting classes and nothing's really happening, I'll just sit around and do nothing. And it's like, dude, you haven't done anything for a month, and then something comes up, you're like, acting. Yes, I'm going to act now. Like, no, you blew it. You need to keep your instrument in tune at all the time. You know what I mean?
Right. It's almost like when you actually do YouTube, like I said, YouTube creators or anything like that. You have to keep going. You can't stop, because if you stop,
exactly 100%, Louis. That's exactly right.
Best example.
Is it Luis or
Luis?
Luis. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Well, 100% Luis.
Best example I could think of with what you're talking about is the military. Military will sit there and we train the same things over and over and over. You could do a field training exercise and 2 weeks later be doing the same exact exercise.
Yeah. If somebody teaches you, I mean, and thank you for your service, by the way. I'm just going to use an example like, here's how you clean a rifle. Well, they don't show you one time. I mean, you got to have that drilled into you. So you know how to clean that rifle without even thinking about it. It just, everything is second nature. Everything is just like boom, 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 ba-ba-doop, boom, boom. And you just, you know what to do. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like, when you, unfortunately, entering my credit card number into Amazon has taught me my credit card number. I don't even have to look it up anymore. I just like, but it's that repetition and that it develops habits and develops muscle memory.
Exactly.
So yeah, absolutely, Nightmare. That's you're spot on, man. Good analogy.
Mm-hmm. All right. So the one before last question that we have here is how, I know you're probably excited, of course, because this is coming back. How intense is going to be the final season of My Hero? Because I'm
really looking forward to it. Now, if you're caught up, I guess it's hard to go, oh, spoiler.
Yeah.
But, All for One has regressed in age. So they've actually got another actor that's now doing a very young All for One. And I imagine as he gets even younger, they'll go to another younger actor. So I don't know how it's going to turn out for me. I don't, hopefully there'll be some flashbacks or maybe his mental thoughts are his normal voice. But it's basically, it's kind of the English will follow whatever the Japanese does, obviously. Yeah. So if and case in point, the Japanese got another actor to do a younger All for One, which is why they eventually replaced me, because they're following what the Japanese is doing. And, no problem with that. So, but I'm anxious to see how it does end. So
that's awesome, man. And just so you know, I see that you like to you look like a guy that loves coffee mugs. From what I see, you probably like to collect little items from people and everything. So I want to let you know that as a host of this podcast, since I know you sometimes go to SciFiCon, you get invited there. I'll be able to supply you a coffee mug from the Reef Podcast itself. Like next time you go to,
cool.
Yeah. So
great.
So
hopefully you'll be there.
Yeah, I'll definitely be able to get you that, so that way you have a piece of us for being part of the show. And
thank you. Very kind of you.
We cannot thank you enough for all the wisdom that you give to all the viewers out here.
Well, it's my pleasure. I hope people enjoyed it and got something out of it. It's always fun to talk to you guys and reach out to fans and stuff like that. So thank you all for having me.
Thank you for being here, and I hope you have a blessed night. I know you have a lot on your plate coming up, and like I told my friend Nightmare here, just always be yourself. Don't ever change.
The only thing I changed is my underwear. So,
All right. You heard it here, guys. So thank you guys so much for coming in. Greatly appreciate everybody that tuned in, and we hope to see you all guys soon. Y'all take care. Have a blessed Sunday. And stay warm if you're in the cold weather. As always, today's episode of the Reef Podcast was streamed live on Twitch. If you could not make it to the live stream of the podcast, you can always listen to it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and iHeart Radio. Thanks for listening. See you next time.